Okay, we are about to start. We're just making sure we get some people in here. We have about 1 more minute, so just hang tight, everybody. Hello and welcome, everybody. I am super excited to be here today. I'm a part of the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority. Now, we today have a great opportunity around our plants, and more specifically, our grade 3 curriculum. We're going to be exploring all about plants today in our local area here. My name is Will, and I also have my great colleague and friend with us today. We have Raya, and we have Squirrely. Now, we can see Squirrely is an animal, and if we think about where Squirrely lives, or squirrels in general, where might they live? If we think about it just for a moment, we know that they live in trees, and a tree is a plant. And we know that it's important for Squirrely to have trees so they have a home. But not only does Squirrely live in a tree, squirrels eat the nuts or the seeds from trees. So it's really important that they have those plants so they can eat food. So important to our friend Squirrely, but also important to us. If we think about us humans, plants are really important because we know they give us oxygen. And oxygen is what we breathe and keeps us alive. Another thing that plants give us is food. If you ever think about eat your fruits and vegetables, those are all plants that we're eating. Even if you say, I only eat meat, well, the animal that you're eating, that animal probably eats some plants. So plants are super important for us. And we even make homes out of them too, or picnic benches. We make lots of different things, and plants are so important for us. Now, what we're going to be doing today is just exploring a bit of our area here and around our plants too. If we just take a look behind me, we can see what season are we in. And we can start to see a lot of change that happens within it too, around plants. During the season of fall, if we think about it, a lot of things are falling to the ground. And these things are our leaves. Now, leaves are so important to every single tree. Even our birds or blue jays, as we hear too. Now, our leaves for our trees, when we look at them up close when we go on our bit of our walk, is they provide food. And we're not going to get too much into it of this photosynthesis, but we also can usually tell what type of tree it is. It's kind of like a face for the tree is the leaf. We can tell what family it's from, what are its relatives, just by looking at the leaf. Now, we have a handout that we've attached to this line. And if you don't have it, Raya and her email's in the description, we can send that out to you. So if you're watching this live, by all means, you can follow along and fill it out and try to figure out which leaves you saw today. Or after the fact, if you're watching this after, you can fill them out throughout the video. So there's a couple things, and the handout looks something like this that we have here. And it's pretty sweet, just the silhouette of the leaves. But we're going to be looking for different types of leaves, such as our red oak that we have. And I even have a red oak here too. I'm going to bring it up right and nice to the camera. We might see too that, well, doesn't look really red. Well, it's more brown. Well, hopefully we can actually get to see some of those red colors. And we'll talk a bit too of, well, why is it brown now? I'm pretty sure it was green earlier. We're going to also look for some other ones too, such as our silver maple. This one does not give us maple syrup. Fun fact, even though it's a maple tree. Not all maples give us maple syrup. We will be looking for our sugar maple as well. And I have a big sugar maple leaf right here. This one's very beautiful. I'll bring it up nice and close for us. This plant, or this sugar maple, does give us maple syrup if you tap it for sap. Another one that we have is looking at our white cedar. That one we'll find lots of, and it smells beautiful if you rub the leaves. And our last one is another one called Manitoba Maple. Now, this one's a bit harder to find in my area here, but I bet if you looked outside in your school area or even your local community, you would find lots of this plant. And this plant is not even from here. Because, well, we live in Ontario. If you guess where the name is, it might be from that area too. But it's considered an invasive. It's not good for the environment. So in a moment, we're actually going to go on a bit of a walk. We're going to go adventure, and we're going to see some of these plants that we just mentioned along with the handout and see if we can fill it in. I'll be talking specifically about some of the other differences around plants, while also mentioning our coniferous and deciduous and what that means. Because that's really important, and we can see that during the fall months. So, are we ready, everybody? I think we're ready. I'm going to push a little button on my tablet here. We're going to transfer over to my phone, and we're going to go on our little exploration. Shall we, everybody? Let's go. Okay. Woo! I think we are all good in the hood. Perfect. And we're about to go on out. I'm just going to grab a couple of things with me here. I'm just going to grab a couple of those leaves that I was mentioning, along with a couple of the different ones too, because I think they're really important. Now, if we look at our sheet right now, or if we think about some plants, specifically, I'm going to show us two leaves. I'm going to show this one right here on this tree, and this one's called white cedar. If we look at it here, it's really different than our silver maple. Now, can we see the differences between the two? Huh. Pretty different. This is one large leaf compared to all of the small leaflets. And we're going to be talking more about this too, because our white cedar is something what we call a coniferous tree, which means it doesn't lose its leaves. It keeps them all throughout the winter month. While our deciduous, which is this one, our silver maple, will lose its leaves. And we're going to see that within a lot of different deciduous trees too, while we go on our walk here. So we're going to go on our walk, and we're going to see if we can spot any other coniferous trees. So ones that keep their leaves. We're going to look at this one right here. Okay, what about this one? Interesting. It's yellow. Another good way for identifying coniferous is if it has needles. Does this one have little needles? It has kind of leaves like this one. And they're starting to change color too. These have started to fall off. So this one, we know it's deciduous. We're going to keep on going down our path here. We're going to keep on going. We're going to keep our eyes out for any of these coniferous trees. I'm going to keep on going, making sure that I'm walking carefully because it is wet. We don't want to slip today. And we see right up here, this one's different than our silver maple. This one, and I'm going to change the camera around for us. Perfect. Awesome. Just like that. So we can see it's really different than what we have here. So this one we know is another coniferous tree. This one, if you're someone that celebrates Christmas, it kind of looks like that, right? Beautiful big tree. Wow, look at that. We're going to keep on going around here. We're going to see if we can also find some of those other plants that we found or have on our sheet. I can turn us around, right? Whoop, there we go. Awesome. I'm back in business. Let's go right over here. Oh, I like this tree right over here. This is a good one. We can start to see too during the fall season that it looks like a lot of plants are kind of dying, right? Like we look at this tree right here. You know, the leaves are yellow again. They're kind of starting to fall off. But we look at this one right here too. There are no leaves on it. And we have this idea in our head, and we kind of got to shake it loose sometimes, is if a tree has no leaves, that it's dead. Well, that's not always true. If a tree doesn't have leaves, well, it's probably just a deciduous tree that lost them. And it's probably because it's fall or winter. It's really during the summer months, if it doesn't have leaves, that's when it's not a good sign. So if I look right up here into this big tree here, and I'm going to put you guys up right in the tree, can you tell what one it looks like? And this tree is really, really big. This one is not like this. It's not a maple. This one produces acorns, and it's really, really big. I'm going to look right up in the tree here too, show how big it is. This is our red oak tree. It's really, really, really big. Woo! And it kind of gets that red color when the leaves start to change. Now, why do the leaves start to change on some of our deciduous trees? Well, it's actually kind of their way to have new leaves every single year. It's kind of a way to, shed your skin almost, shed the leaves. Our deciduous trees, just like our red oak here, produce a lot of food for themselves through this process called photosynthesis. They use their leaves, they absorb the sun, they drink the water with their roots, and then they store that during the winter because it's really cold during the winter too. And there's a lot of water in their leaves. And what happens to water, well, after enough time in the winter? Usually when it's really cold, it will actually freeze. And these trees don't want to get hurt, so they shed their leaves as well. So there's a couple different reasons why our trees lose their leaves. This is called a red dogwood. We can see that by the stem or the bark of it, it's really, really, really red. And this plant will also lose its leaves. We can see all these plants here with their green leaves. And all of these, or almost all of these, will lose them, except our coniferous trees. Way up there, we can see them. And it looks pretty barren. So even if this tree doesn't have leaves and they all fall off, it doesn't mean they're dead. And that's what I'm getting at here. It will regrow its leaves in the season of spring. And that's completely normal for that to happen as well. And it's really good for the trees too. It's kind of this whole life cycle of them. And in fall too, if you explore your area, this is when we're going to find a lot of seeds from these plants. And seeds come in a variety of different shapes and sizes, just like us humans. They may come in the form of berries. They may come in the form of acorns, such as nuts. They may come in the form of walnuts, or even our maple keys, those little helicopters that fall to the ground. Those also are seeds or baby trees waiting to grow in the spring. So we're going to check out another one here. This one we've already seen before, but it's pretty cool what we have here too. And if anyone remembers the name, so it's also going to be a little test here. Is it a deciduous? Does it lose its leaves? Or is it a coniferous and it keeps its leaves? So that's our first question here. Deciduous or coniferous? Ready? And whoop. Deciduous or coniferous? Nice close look. Does it have those big leaves? Is it deciduous or coniferous? Does it keep its leaves? Does it lose them? Bit different. It's a bit tricky. Yeah, it's coniferous. That's right, Colin. It's coniferous. Deciduous, we can think of those larger leaves like this is a plant called buckthorn. This one will lose it. Does anyone remember the name of this one? This is actually a very special plant. It is a sacred medicine too. It smells really strong. Has a nice smell. If you rub the back of the leaves and give a big sniff. Ready? We'll all sniff together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Smells like nature to me. That's what it smells like. Love the smell of nature. Yeah, that's our white cedar that we have. And we'll kind of get a big look at our tree. Look how big it is. I'm pretty tall, about 6'3", give or take the day, and how gravity is acting. But this tree is way taller than me. Way, way, way taller. But it does have cousins. Because trees can look very similar to one another. And depending on their leaf, just like our silver maple or our maple, our sugar maple, I should say, we can kind of tell if they're a part of the maple family or, well, if they're deciduous or coniferous is another way too. So it's pretty cool what we have there. I'm going to slowly walk. I'm walking a bit too fast, it looks like it. So slowly go.
keep on going. We'll keep on talking. Yeah. So coniferous and deciduous. I think we have a really good understanding of the two here. And we've seen a couple different leaves as well around. We're going to go look at one other one, is our sugar maple as well. So we're going to go check that one out. And our sugar maple is something really special to us in Canada too. And who here has had maple syrup before? Or who likes maple syrup? It's really sugary. Now, real maple syrup, not Aunt Jemima's. We're talking about the real stuff that we have here. Real Canadian maple syrup. And if you haven't tried it, that's okay. If you do ever get an opportunity, by all means, check it out. Oh, I got to show you guys this view though. If you can see it. Beautiful what we have here. Lots of different colors happening everywhere too. So we're gonna.
We got a question, Will.
Oh yeah, what's the question, Squirrely and Ryan?
Colin wanted to know, what is your favorite tree?
What is my favorite tree? That's a great question. My favorite tree will have to be one of two trees, and I can't really pick between the two. It will either have to be a red oak, like the one that we saw down by the water there, or it will have to be a willow tree. And willow trees, I don't see anywhere around. Bye, Squirrely. Bye, Ryan. Thanks for the question. Willow trees are great big trees. They love being around water, and they have these big sweeping branches that go sway back and forth in the wind. But what's really neat about our willow trees too is they're one of the plants that allow for pollinators such as bees and other animals early in the spring to have food from. So willow trees are really important for our bees and bumblebees, our native bees. And oak trees, I like how big and strong they get. And I love the shape of their leaf. I don't really know why. It kind of reminds me of a stick person almost in some ways, but it's really cool. So, bit of segue, but we're here at our maple tree. Now this one's not too old. This one we could kind of say is a bit of a teenager tree. Hello, teenager tree. Little sugar maple that we have here. Now we can't get actually maple syrup from this one. It's too young right now. We have to make sure that it's a lot older, a lot bigger too, until we're able to get maple syrup. Now, one really cool fact about our maple syrup and around it too is, well, how many liters of sap do we need to make maple syrup? And I think it's about 40 liters of sap from our maple tree to make 1 liter of maple syrup. It's around that. It's 40 or 50. I can't remember the exact one, but it's a lot of sap. If we took 40 liters of sap from this tree, we'd probably kill it. And sap is basically the blood for the trees. It transports all the nutrients from the roots of our tree all the way up to the leaves where it needs them. So what we can see on here too is there's a lot of different colors because we talk about plants being really important. They're homes to different animals and also different living things too. I'm going to flip the camera around and I'm not going to get too much into it, but this living thing is called lichen. And it's really cool. And you can find this on your schoolyard as well. It's kind of like an algae and a fungus living together. And we can see it here. And it lives on a tree and uses it as a home. There's a whole bunch of it too. And each different color is a different type of lichen as well. Really cool. And on the tips, once you're looking at some lichen, you can also look at the tips of our branch and see this little spearhead as well. That is a tree bud. Now, I'm not going to pick at it because in the spring, that, hopefully, given the right conditions, will be a new leaf because this one is losing all of them. So a new leaf will grow from buds on our deciduous tree. Really cool. We can see one of our other trees here, big tree, no leaves on it though. So we might say, oh, Will, this tree's dead, it's deciduous, doesn't have any leaves. Well, we could just check out, see if it has any buds. So let's do that. Does it have any buds here? Doesn't look like it. So that's a sign that we could say maybe it is dead. But I'm not too sure. And looking around, it looks like it might be another sugar maple. Our big tree. Pretty sweet. So I'm going to turn you guys back around. Boop. Perfect. I'm going to do a little time check here. Awesome. Yeah. Lichen is somewhat edible too, depending on the kind. It's a really cool type of species, and looking at it under a microscope looks really awesome too. looking at all of our different types of trees. So what we have going on here next is I want to show you guys something, and I'm going to bring you right over here. And it has to do with one of our pine trees, and specifically our white pine. Now, it's not on our sheet there, but it's a tree that we see kind of around the area. Now, if we think of the word white itself, how many letters are in it? We can think of W-H-I-T-E. There's 5 letters in the word white. And how we can tell with our white pine here, and this is a coniferous because it's needles, is by looking at the bundle. And I'm going to show you what a bundle looks like, a bundle of needles. And it looks like this little bundle here. You can see how it's kind of attached. It's like a little arm. And why were we counting how many letters were in the word white? W-H-I-T-E. There's 5. White pine. In a white pine, a bundle of needles, guess how many there's going to be? I'm going to give you a hint. It's the same number as there are letters in white. 5. So if I were to find a bundle of needles that isn't maybe destroyed, and I'm going to pick this one here, I should be able to find, if I'm going to pull that, 5. You can see one's broken, 5 needles. So this we can tell is a white pine. Different than our white cedar. Very different. Both coniferous. Both of these are leaves as well, but they're very different than some of our other leaves that we have around here too. I'm just going to pick one off of the ground. Very different. Now notice how they're holding their color too, because these ones do not fall during the fall. They don't lose them for the winter. Whereas our deciduous, they do lose them. Pretty cool. White pine, bundle of 5, 5 letters in the word white. Pretty sweet. I know I will remember that. Probably if I was in grade 2 and I learned that, I'd remember it forever after that. Oh, tilting you down there for some reason. I'm going to point you at me here. And so we're kind of coming up around a bit of time, but I want to make sure we have enough time for any questions that people may have today. We've seen a lot of different things around here. We've talked a lot about different plants. We've shown some of the differences too. Now, it's not only about the leaves in these plants, it's also about, well, the bark too. That's something you can start to explore maybe in your own schoolyard or even in your own area at home. You can look at the bark. Is it different? Does it feel different? What about the area that these plants grow in too? Because if I think of a cactus, am I going to find a cactus growing maybe here in Ontario? Probably not, unless it's in someone's home, because it's not dry enough. We have, well, wet weather like it is today. It was pouring this morning, right? Along with some other plants too. Maybe it's too cold for our tropical plants to survive. So it's really special what we have here, and it's really neat to get outside and see the differences between all of these plants and understand them too. So definitely go check it out outside. What kind of plants or animals do you have outside that need them? So I'm going to take this time. If there's any questions, we're going to kind of swap back over to our other camera right now, and we'll go from there.
Camera. Oh. Now we're back on our camera here. And yeah, so I'm not too sure if there's any questions that we may have right now. I'm just kind of pulling it up right here too. When will maple trees be ready to be tapped? I'm actually not quite sure. Raya, do you know when maple trees are ready to be tapped?
Trying to keep my distance here with Swirly. We both have our masks on though. Maple trees are ready to be tapped in March. So that's when the temperature is just right. The nights are really, really cold, but the daytimes have enough sun, and that allows for the sap to start flowing during the day. So in March and maybe a little bit of April is when the trees can be tapped to receive that beautiful maple sap that can be boiled down to maple syrup. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, awesome question. Thanks, Swirly. Thanks, Raya. So, and there's a lot of great different places where you can learn more about this maple tree and also the process of maple syrup as well. I know that the TRCA at the Courtright Center does a great maple syrup interpretation before COVID, of course, right? You could come in, but I bet they'll be having some virtual online presentations about it too. So check out for that. I just want to give a bit of a, before we come to an end here, is a bit of a promo of what we're going to be doing next. We are going to be planning to do these videos every other week, grade and curriculum based. And also, we'll be having other forms of teaching, such as myself, Riot, and other great teachers that we have come into your classroom virtually for more of a private in-person session as well, a part of our WOW sessions. So that's our Watershed on Wheels. So make sure you follow us on social media, if it's Facebook, if it's YouTube like this, as we'll be live, hopefully more, and doing these great videos for you, along with some great handouts too. Awesome. Anything else? I think we're good? Perfect. I want to say thank you very much, everybody. We hope that you have a wonderful day. Stay safe and enjoy, okay? From Will, Raya, Squirrely, and everybody else at the TRCA, have a great day.